Welcome everybody to the PUBG PEL Contenders. It's another day of action underway and what? That's not Banks.
Hi, I'm James.
I'm being joined by the ever wonderful Geometric for the rest of the week. Going to take you through all of the action now. Gio, as you might have seen, I know you've done your research, you've done your prep. We've had crazy amount of days in the Contenders final stage. We've had 1 week of action. We're coming into the second week. Some teams, they started off weak. They were struggling, but they've come into this week. They pulled it in with a bang, most notably Unity and Tornado Energy.
Yeah, I mean, that's who I was going to mention. You know, sort of last week, what we thought was a precedent had been set for where all these teams are potentially going to place. And then yesterday, through such a massive spanner in those works, you said it then, Unity and Tornado. Tornado, they jumped from 11th to 5th place, which is huge in the standings. And Unity sitting there in 9th, whereas beforehand they were in 15th. And so both of these are teams who were really, you know, risking falling into that bottom four, which is, of course, not where you want to be. After today, we're halfway through the final stage. So that's what it's all going to be about. It's about, right, okay, we've clawed ourselves out of this situation. Can we keep ourselves afloat? Because the sweat's going to be running down everybody else's back now.
It really is. We're seeing these placements are definitely getting a little bit closer now. We do see the top four is the same as what we've always seen, which is Airstation Mike, 3D Max, PG18, and Milky Way. Has changed a little bit. Airstation Mike had a great day scoring a chicken dinner, getting 37 points total for the day. Another strong day for them, putting them 10 points ahead. But with 3D Max and PG18 kind of trading close behind, it's still going to be tough, and Airstation Mike are going to have to be on their heels. But like I said, like look how close it is. Milky Way and Tornado Energy, same points. You go down to 9th and 10th, Unity and YMCA, the same amount of points. Tempest and BetterLuckNxTime, the same amount of points.
Yeah, you've got these teams who are so close to each other. And the thing with Milky Way and Tornado that you mentioned there is Milky Way is still sitting in 4th, which is the same as where they were last week. And so that kind of goes to show there's not really improvement there. There's some stagnation. And, you know, 4th is definitely not a bad space to be in, but they haven't broken into those top 3, which are still being claimed by those same teams. And so now they've got Tornado Energy, who have had this massive improvement threatening them for that spot. And with, you know, how many days left that we have now, 7, I believe.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, that's when Milky Way have got to be like, oh, okay, if we're not improving and everybody else is over this course of time, like, we need to be concerned.
Yeah, of course, there has to be that level of evolution. They started off the final stage with a huge amount of points, that wonderful chicken dinner, and to kick it off, and they really progressed from there. They had a solid first week.
Yeah.
And yeah, there has to be that evolution where you got to go, okay, yeah, like you said, the teams behind us, they're catching up. What do we need to do to step up our game? And I've noticed they've been trying a couple of little different things, whether it's changing their looting spot, whether it's just changing their rotation. And to be honest, it's not really working, whether that will just need a bit of time to adjust. But most notably in like Erangel, they're kind of getting caught out by ELGIGANTEN. We saw that yesterday. But looking at the division between placement and kill points, we know kill points tends to be the dominating factor for these teams.
Yeah.
But you can't deny how effective a solid placement position, a solid placement result can be for teams in the standings.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the points wouldn't exist if that weren't the case. But no, you are right. A lot of those kill points are where it comes in. And actually, one thing that I think we've noticed from last week compared to this week is some of those more passive teams have been more aggressive. And you are seeing a lot more aggression coming out from some of those teams. And so there are, of course, certain teams that were aggressive anyway. I mean, you mentioned them there, but one of the primary teams of this example is ELGIGANTEN. They have this really interesting playstyle where they sort of, rather than flanking another team, which is something that, for example, Airstation might do, they infiltrate another team. So they're like parasitic. They come in and they actually get between them, separate out the members, and kill them from the inside almost. And that is something that's worked out really well for them. That's why they're still sitting in that 6th spot very comfortably at the top there. And, you know, as I say, you mentioned them before. Miramar, they did really, really well on. Yes, yesterday, but the interesting thing is Miramar typically has been their worst map.
It has.
So they came fourth on Miramar yesterday. We've got 2 Miramar games today. Typically, they average 12th place on Miramar. So I'm going to be really interested to see how they manage to come into that map today and see if they can continue on this domination.
Yeah, and as you can just see the schedule there as it goes back to us. You have 1 Erangel, 2 Miramar, and Sanhok to end the day. And that's the thing, like you see the team's strengths in some of these maps. You point out ELGIGANTEN, they normally struggle on Miramar. Looking at Erangel, you have the likes of PG18 and Airstation Mike. They find really solid spots and they tend to really get good results. It's all about playing to your strengths. One team that does really need to pick things up is Team Moves. They've fallen so far down the rabbit hole of just not being able to pick up the results that they need, and it's a shame because we know their potential as a team. Yeah,
they're sitting kind of right at the end right now. And one thing I think it was Banks who said on the broadcast yesterday was that they just look like they've lost a lot of their confidence. Yeah. And that is the thing, not enough people bring it up is how important the mental game is in stuff like this. Definitely. And especially when you see your peers, your opponents who you're fighting for those spots in the promo against, they're the ones who are showing this improvement, especially over the course of the weekend. And that's where everybody's going to be wanting to put in that work. You see the fruits of their labor and you're thinking,
why isn't it working for us?
Right, it's like, where's my redemption? But no, of course. And so, you don't want to be letting that, let you fall behind at this stage in the competition because there's so many more days left to go where there is the potential to crawl yourself back out. But if you set in your mind that that's not going to happen this early, then that's really dangerous. And so what they need to be looking for is that really strong in-game leadership that can not only tell them what it is that they should be doing, but also encourage their mindset, keep them afloat, because that's one of the most underrated roles in any competitive team of any game, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But in something like this where you're working as a team, you're going against a load of different people, and you're all fighting for the same thing, that's really important. That's what team moves need to be looking for.
Yeah, 100%. Just to extend on that, the mental game, I've talked about it often, and when you get down in the dumps, it can be so hard to lift yourself back up. And these teams, we know the potential, they know the potential. It's just about working on it step by step. So you want to make these kind of evolutionary steps to improve, right? And you want to kind of go into every single game changing something different or changing multiple things or just picking up on different things. And that's kind of all well and good, but I would also recommend that the teams take a game by game and step by step that are struggling. So you kind of go into each game or each day and you look to adjust little things, because if you change multiple things, whether it's the roles, whether it's the positions, whether it's just the call outs, when you change multiple things at once, you don't really know what's working and you don't really know what
exactly. That's the thing, is because if it's not working out, you don't know if what out of the things that you changed is the thing that's caused that. So you're right, you do need to sort of take it step by step, try out these things, and that's why teams scrim and practice in their own time.
Of course. Now we do see this playing trajectory for the first game of the day. Are we going to have a military base finish like we saw yesterday? Is it going to shift upwards, southwards, east or west?
I mean, yesterday you had northwest and a military base, so 2 very wildly different circles come in the game yesterday, but it gave some very exciting games. I mean, especially that second Erangel game where at the end it just became so aggressive because there were all these teams up on Everest who were trying to fight for the high ground, and then they all had to get down really quickly.
And it's funny because Team Moves, they held Everest for that second game yesterday, and I was kind of having a look back on the VOD, and I was even thinking during the game, when you hold Everest, it's a great position to hold when it's well inside the circle and when it's kind of tending to be shifting that way, but you really have to be able to push the teams away and make that your Everest and make it your own mountain, because if you allow other teams around you to get anywhere near you on that mountain, it really does pose a huge problem. It makes it a lot harder for you in the later phases.
Well, something really interesting about this circle that we're now seeing is yesterday on the game where we had that military base, Northern Lights, they did go straight for that,
True.
and they've done that again. But now they're probably going to have to end up crossing back over that bridge, unless the circle does tend back down towards that, which, is, of course, an option.
It's funny because it's like this phase 1 circle is like a mix of yesterday's 2 Erangel games in one. Like,
Yes.
because the first game yesterday, it was a clear military base, right? So that was great. It meant that the teams knew kind of give or take what they had to do, how quickly they had to rotate based on their drop spot. But this game, it's like, is it going to go mainland? Is it going to go military base? If I were Northern Lights, I would actually stay there for now, allow the teams that are in the mainland to rotate where they want to and see where phase 2 ends up.
I mean, it's going to be great here for YMCA potentially because, they don't have anyone behind them. They can sort of stay where they are, wait to see, what the other teams are doing. I mean, one thing that really often comes up in PUBG is the fact that this early on in the game, you sort of want to let the other teams decimate each other and you stay out of it a little bit. I mean, some teams like to...
I love the violent words.
You know what?
Decimate.
I'm so glad.
Freaking
But
hell, like.
Some teams, they like to go in for the early aggression and the early engagements, and that's fine if you feel like you have that power over other people, but in general, what a lot of teams like to do is hold it out a little bit, wait for things to be a little bit more in their favor, wait for the fights to come to them rather than them go looking for it. So if you're in a position like how YMCA are in now, you don't necessarily have to go looking for those fights if you feel like you're in a good position where you're not going to be snuck up upon, you're holding that control.
And it's funny you mention that because YMCA are generally a passive team. They like to play for the late game. They like to kind of play somewhat the edge of the circles in phase 2, 3, 4. And when it works out great because they're actually, even though they're in 9th place, they do have 3 chicken dinners. It's just that the games that they don't win, they kind of struggle on. Now, a team that I do want to kind of mention is Joker because they normally land around Severny/Stolbar. And obviously the playing trajectory was way down south. They've landed in between, split up in between YMCA and PG18. So that is definitely going to be a different factor that the teams around them are going to have to react to a little bit, even though Jokers kind of generally stay split up.
Well, you say it there, Jokers are very split up right now, which, if you go and have a look at the map, which I know you like to always call out. So,
there you go.
if you want to do it.
Exclamation mark map on chat, and it will show up a link, have on a separate tab, know where the teams are rotating. It's really good intel to have.
Yeah, you can see that they're really trying to occupy that road right now. Moop's looking like they're trying to get some early aggression in, and we've been saying, maybe that's going to be part, if they can get in an early kill, that would be part of how they can build themselves back up, bring that mental back up, and maybe feel a little bit more confident. And given that they are sort of sandwiched between a number of teams right now, there's only so much time until they're forced into those engagements, especially with Quick Maths coming very, very close to them now and looking to actually get an engagement on them if they run into them very soon.
Well, what these teams tend to do is they're not directly looking to, let's say, get early game kills. They'll take it if the chances are there, but it's about pushing the teams around them back.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of kind of popping those shots off to indicate to the teams that are going in that direction, saying, hey, we have this area, go near us, you're going down, friend. And that's what the likes of Team Moves are trying to do. They're trying to create that space, that freedom of movement where they can get themselves as individual players and as a full team in a much stronger position for the later phases.
Yeah. And actually, we were talking about Northern Lights maybe want to stay on the military base. We can actually see OK Bro moving up a little bit, potentially doing some intel just to see if people are moving in towards them. But actually, obviously, a lot of these teams, they're really kind of staying close to those roads. And that's where potentially they're going to have a lot of the fights later on come up.
Yeah. We see that only 3 teams that are outside circle is Milky Way, 3D Max, and Last Crew. Last Crew is starting to drip in there. It's because Milky Way, they went up to George, 3D Max, they went up to Jazza.
3D Max playing their own game, dude.
Yeah, and that's what they like to do, because when they realize that they have to spend longer getting into the center part of the circle in the first phase, it's not worth doing it, because the time you spend rotating into a circle is time lost for such a long distance is time lost looting up.
No,
and
absolutely.
that can affect you late game. So really, it's just playing the calculated game for 3D Max.
It is nonetheless worth noting that Erangel's a fairly weak map for 3D Max. They've actually had 0 kills this week on Erangel. They're known to be a little bit more aggressive on Miramar.
Oh my.
Well, they're a little bit more aggressive on Miramar and Sandhawk, and that's just something that sort of has been somewhat of a pattern for them. So it will be interesting to see what they end up doing.
So we do see the boom was knocked down by YMCA. So YMCA made their way up from Primorse to around Ferry Pier area, more central area of the circle. And they've just got that connection on. But because they're not pushing in as YMCA, they play that long ball game. They play that passive kind of gameplay. The revive will come through. No real harm done on the side of Jokers. They'll just be a little bit more alert.
Yeah, you could definitely see that, by the way. They're sort of trying to ensure that they'd kind of gone through all the buildings in the compound, want to make sure that if they are pushed up upon, they've kind of used that area before anyone else gets to. And of course, getting some good sight lines that we did see there. We're now seeing Airstation Mike looking like they're in a pretty good high ground position, which could end up being a little bit more dangerous here for InsideGames, who were a little bit lower but within their sight lines.
Now, Tempest, they have the high ground of Potato Hill, overlooking the likes of Airstation Mike. ELGIGANTEN have compromised or have gotten onto Pachinki and kind of made that their home space. 3D Max, instead of making the rotation down to the mainland, they've actually gone up northwards, past the river, across the way, and they've actually kind of come down. They're coming down through Everest. And they are connecting a little bit closer to Last Crew, but Last Crew, I feel like they're just going to ignore as our 3D Max. And that's a much safer rotation by 3D Max, and I really like how they've done it because you can see there's much more space around the Gaka area because the teams that landed, they were going to be more on the south side of this Phase 1 circle.
Yeah, you can see them all coming down in the vehicles. And actually, obviously, if the next phase ends up being up in that northwest side, then, that's going to be great for them, and they're going to be the ones laughing.
Definitely. Now, a team that have the center circle, we're going to see Phase 2 pop up. And when you talk about being strong or weak on Erangel, they have been the weakest team. That's BetterLuckNxTime. They've only scored 9 points in Erangel.
Not great.
It's really not good at all. It's pretty bad indeed. Part of the reason is because Airstation Mike have actually been punishing them, but that's something that I've been going down the line as Orange from Uni connecting onto Northern Lights. This is the military island push of these two teams as Uni trying to catch them out, but Northern Lights, they were a little bit ahead. They should be able to get across the road, but as soon as they do get across the road, they're going to be getting closer to the likes of YMCA.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of camp a bridge if you're at the other end of it. But, they've tried. But, you're right. They're going to get ever closer to YMCA. And actually, BetterLuckNxTime are kind of close as well. And they've been looking so much better this week. They came back after the weekend looking like somewhat improved. They looked a little bit lost last week.
They've looked better. They got 27 points yesterday. It was much needed. They can get those consistent results. They can get those kills. But talking about getting those kills, ghostar connects on ToNoki, gets that kill confirmed, putting 3D Max down to 3 players. The rotation from 3D Max not quite working out. It was a little bit more central than they would like, and they paid the price. ELGIGANTEN, they rotated from Pachinki after that Phase 2 popped up, and they've gone more central. Nice response from 3D Max. From ELGIGANTEN, should I say.
Now seeing Tornado land some shots onto Quickmass. Going to be bringing ToWzErA down, so that's going to send another player into the ground. Even more gunfights going on here with Furax joining them as well. So 3D Max not having a good time in this phase.
They had an initial solid rotation into kind of the Phase 1 circle, but they haven't found a spot in Phase 2, and they've lost 2 members already. First, they went near ELGIGANTEN. ELGIGANTEN pushed them away. Now they've gone near Milky Way. And yes, they've stayed around where Milky Way are, but they have lost 1 member. So just leaving Phantom and Solar. Now, in fairness, if there's 1 member of 3D Max, nothing against all the other players that you do want to keep alive, it is Phantom.
It's Phantom.
He's second on the kill feed. He's third on the damage leaderboard. This guy is a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. He can definitely pop off. Well, with all of Milky Way there, we'll see how they end up doing. Right now, taking a look at InsideGaming. And actually, they have also a very interesting playstyle where they're very object orientated. And what I mean by that is you often see them kind of put themselves in what, off the surface looks like less than desirable positions because they know they can get something better out of it. They are definitely the team that we see. They'll hang around in the blue sometimes because they know they can get more valuable kills off of it. And sometimes that puts them in really good positions.
Wookie Bookie connecting on to ToWzErA. Tempest looking to get a strong start to today's games. That's a kill going over in their favor. Let's start off strong, guys. It's on the church over by Pachinki. Let's see if it can work. Now, one team that, just to point out, Unity, they initially gone to connect onto Northern Lights on the West Bridge. They realized it was going to be a tough call, so they've actually rotated through the blue, gone on the East Bridge, and they're making their way into the circle now, which I think is a much wiser call as 3D Max. They connect onto Jokers. They get a kill for themselves as a two-man team. That's not the worst thing in the world. How's Phase 3 going to show up for these teams? Is it going to shift? Is it going to stay central? It stays pretty central.
So still going to have Pachinki sitting in there. So Tempest looking, fairly good there. But of course, now we're actually seeing Unity start to change the direction of their rotation to go somewhat more upwards.
They'll probably go up on the north side above Pachinki, kind of past that road and kind of show the high ground. Maybe even head towards the loot drop that is on the north area. When you look at kind of where these teams are going to look to occupy, a lot of the really strong spots are already occupied inside the circle, so the rotations are going to be they're going to be a little bit tougher for the teams that have to rotate, but the teams that don't really have to, they're just going to be on high alert of the teams moving around them and see if they can really kind of catch them out.
Yeah, it actually looks like Unity may even come into contact with Tempest without making too broad a flank. You actually see some gunfire happening now, but look at StarLadder getting so ready. Is he gonna get it though? No, the tree saved the day.
Yeah, but there's a couple of YMCA players that kind of popped off, and you felt like more of those shots could have connected.
Yeah.
Now, both teams are outside of the circle on the south side. You have BetterLuckNxTime. They're kind of edging it, but they're looking to make their way in. PG18 are to the north, to the southwest area of the circle. 2 members inside, 2 members outside as Kizik uses the smokes. That's a bit of a utility that could play a part down the line if it's not replenished from kills.
Yeah.
Where it'll be one smoke grenade down.
Yeah, I think it could have potentially been better used. It was so out in the open, so we kind of had to use it, but later on down the line, as you say, that could have been better used. The Wanderer trying to get some shots, but Deez is actually gonna bring Kizik to his knees, which is sort of kind of goes to show now they've just got this pressure on their back. That's where they're gonna want that utility to come back. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you're eliminated.
Yeah, BetterLuckNxTime going out in 16th place. Said they don't have strong showings in Erangel. It's the most strongly used map, and BetterLuckNxTime kind of following in those footsteps. But the action does continue as these teams rotate. Northern Lights, okay, bro, catching out a member of InsideGames. And now Pixelix does get taken out. Spiro and Perfectix, strong members of Northern Lights. As a team, they haven't really lived up to their potential so far in the final stages, but with a bit of a stronger day yesterday, getting 21 points, it's an evolutionary step as they do find themselves overall in 13th place.
Let me just see, trying to get a couple more of these kills. Zampeek's gonna be having a little bit of a hard time. You can actually, if you're looking at the map, you can see that the majority of the density of the gunfire is actually happening in that eastern side, but now that we do have our next circle...
StarLadder connecting on to Perfectix. What initially looked good for InsideGames is they've actually faced pressure from the 2 teams rotating in. They had the high ground, but they haven't really kind of, whether they haven't spread themselves out enough, it hasn't worked out for them. But I'll tell you what, YMCA, they're engaging onto Northern Lights. They don't often do that. They aren't a team known to be super aggressive, but they're making it count for now. As the grenade is going to be connecting, not quite onto StarLadder, but he does get a kill for his side. So that's going to be good for YMCA. Gives him a little bit more freedom. Spiro will just will look to use those smoke grenades just to try and find a little bit of space as he gets in that vehicle to disengage.
Yeah, I've got to start doing that. We're actually seeing a lot of these teams in vehicles, notably Jokers and Last Crew up at the north side of the circle, trying to make that flank around, but could actually end up running into each other.
And the tough thing about the circle is that there's a lot of field of Pachinki that the teams don't want to go near. So that's a big chunk of this circle that is really kind of out of bounds. So we're seeing the Pachinki being kind of occupied for now. Airstation Mike, they rotated from the compound, from that tower outside of the field. They've moved into the edge of Pachinki. Milky Way, they're on the gutter. Looking up, just trying to peek and shoot as Encelenzo does catch out Ubikov, PG-18, but can he return the shots? Recurrent looking for it. Ubikov will possibly look to get revived as Jappy connects onto set of Jokers.
And that's what I was saying, you know, you're potentially going to have this conflict between Jokers and Last Crew at the top there as they're sort of both trying to funnel in through this same part of the circle.
But there's also Tornado Energy. Tornado Energy, they had a great day scoring 43 points. They want to carry that momentum now and maybe look to potentially third-party the engagement from these two teams.
And of course, they're right by 3D Max, who have lost 2 of their players.
True.
So those, I mean, could potentially be some easy kill points, sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Them if they can get some good sights onto them.
And now Jokers, they're being camped on the edge of the circle by Last Crew. Jokers, they initially landed down the south, but they rotated up north. They thought it was going to be a good idea, but Last Crew are there. Last Crew initially faced pressure from 3D Max, but they were able to survive that. Now they're turned their attentions on to Jokers.
Yeah, Jokers had a really tough situation there because, you know, 2 of them were trying to get away. Boom was bleeding out on the side of the road, eventually died to that as the blue sort of engulfed him. So now they've lost, you know, a great member of their team and they've sort of got to go on just as 2 because they were forced into a situation where they had no choice but to do that.
Definitely, and now Turbo Banani connects on to Mailman of Tornado Energy. So YMCA, they were initially looking up the north direction where they connected onto Northern Lights. Now they're kind of shifting down south where you have 2 or 3 teams. You have YMCA, you have Tornado Energy, you have PG-18. Now Turbo Banani, can he find the shots on the combine, looking to do a bit of a flank around? The rest of the team are giving him that level of support that he needs. The grenade connects. Oh, puts Turbo Banani down. It seems like the side of Tornado Energy being aware of the positioning that YMCA might put themselves in to try and get the better of them. So Tornado Energy trying to keep 1 step ahead, but you're not 1 step ahead of those shots as Aaliyah gets stolen away by PG-18.
Well, yeah, that's going to put a couple of them in the ground. And of course, it's a shame when you have to share your kills, but nonetheless, that is 2 fewer players who are going to be on the board there. Now we've got Hugstar going down, so Airstation Mike going to be crying about that one, especially given where they are placed here in Pachinki. They're in that situation where it's hard to be positioned correctly, but now another gunfight going out. It looked like he was getting ready to throw a nade. Deez is going to throw one of his own.
Tornado Energy got eliminated in 15th place. Put under too much pressure by PG-18 and YMCA combined. They're fighting over the edge of the circle. Now Quick Math are joining in from behind, but Deez turns his attention, gets onto Alonso, but returns by Diggory. Diggory does not survive, gets taken out by Deez, and Quick Math are eliminated. So PG-18, in a matter of 30 seconds, have gotten the better of 2 squads on the edge of the circle, but now they have their next challenge, which is going to be YMCA, who just kind of avoided all this, got closer to the edge of the circle, and said, okay, look, we'll let you do all the work, and we'll pick up the pieces going into the placement points.
Well, PG-18 absolutely trying to prove that they belong back on that top spot, which was brutally ripped away from them by Airstation Mike yesterday. But right now, no gunfire going on, just waiting.
Yep.
Just kind of hiding in that grass here, waiting for their sort of ultimate opportunity. They don't want to waste it. There's only a couple of them there together, so they have to be a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more aware of their surroundings. In goes the nade. Not going to actually hit. Turbo Banani managed to get away with pretty much all of his health there.
So when you look at PG-18, they're separating, and that's a much cleverer play, because even though, yes, they know they're already at a man disadvantage. So if they separate, there's a much higher chance that one of their players can at least survive going into this next phase. But what they did not realize, what they didn't take into account, is that ELGIGANTEN are there to get that elimination in at the end of the day. So unfortunately, it just didn't work out for PG18, but they gave it a good run for it, ending this game with a good few kills at least, as Team Moves are taken out in 12th place. So not a good day, not a good start to the day for them once again.
Yeah, we actually saw ELGIGANTEN doing some pretty long-range fire earlier on Team Moves. As you say, they've now done their rotate around, so they're coming face-to-face with YMCA, who really have no choice but to deal with it. ELGIGANTEN, we said how they're a fairly aggressive team, and they like to play quite close to the circle's edge, so that extra pressure is on, although MOORPHEUS is going to go straight down to the blue.
That does push ELGIGANTEN back a little bit. YMCA are still the full squad, so they have the high ground. They have the man advantage. He gets a headshot, knocks down KnorkiS.
Trade.
But Marcelek gets a trade on. But seniks comes in to get on Turbo Banana. But Turbo Banana is knocked down. seniks, it's against ghostar. ELGIGANTEN gets taken out. Will the revives come through before the circle starts closing in? He's got 15 seconds, but will he get all of them? Is it worth it? Or do you just revive one or two and look to push your way into circle? Because look at that shift. It's shifted up northwards because of all the action that's happened down south with 3 or 4 teams. We haven't really had much of a chance to talk about these teams. Pachinki, Church, Unity, Airstation, Mike, Milky Way, and you have Tempest in the warehouse and those compounds in the center of the circle. They're looking for fEJK. fEJK gets taken out by Hani. Tempest pulling in those kills, pushing Airstation Mike away.
Airstation Mike, one of those teams that we kind of know to make those swift rotations, and that's exactly what they're attempting to do. But now it's just Jazza sitting here on his own, and he's surrounded by so many other teams in a spot where people like Unity, like Milky Way, are going to be wanting to rotate into the circle, and they're in the way.
Well, like Jazza's in a wizard tower. He can do nothing. A grenade, he's not going to want to anyway peek. Yeah, like he might have to get the cloak of invisibility, you know, and make his way a little bit more center into the circle. Now Tempest, they connect onto YMCA. YMCA tried to flanking around from the northwest, so from the south to the west side. And one member has been connected onto. Now Kajudi. So 2 members left. And Wookie Bookie, we know what he can do with the bolt action, and he's making it work for his side in this game so far. Now the action comes down on the edge of the circle. Spiro gets connected on. Deep is just left standing, trying to grenade from behind that wall, create that space, push Milky Way back as he's facing pressure from the blue zone, closing in, and he gets connected on by DP of Milky Way.
And that's what's happening in these forced gunfights. Now, if you actually look to the top left of your screen, you can see that Tempest and Unity are the only 2 teams left with those original 4 players. Unity, one of these teams that we really pointed out. And as I say that, Orange gets a good shot, but Snoopy's going to be going down. And InsideGames losing a Odstrelovac as well. So that's not a good time for them.
Boy, Nukduf connects on the offstring with the Kobe. Will he get the revive? Jokers is there to the north. You cannot forget about Jokers. They just are always seems to be there. As now offstring gets taken down to the play zone, the circle centers up. It goes in the favor of Tempest. They need a good result. They're in 14th overall. A good chicken dinner to start the day will really lift their spirits. It will lift their confidence. We talked about it. The mentality. As the grenade pops through, it connects on the set. Snoopy, can he get the final blow? Moon, he's been a one-man army in a lot of these games.
Another nade.
Can he make it count?
Yeah, the nade took down most of his health there. So Set going to be going straight to the ground. Moon's going to be joining him. Joker's eliminated, number 10 out of 16. And now Unity will be moving on forward as they have to figure out how it is they're going to rotate into this next circle.
Well, yeah, as InsideGames do get confirmed and eliminated in 9th by Milky Way, the tough spot for Uni is that they're going downhill and they're going by the side of the road. And I want to know, how much utility do they have? How much how much have they saved throughout this game that they're going to have to smoke their way through? Because the second they get down that hill, yes, you have a couple of, when you get across the road, there is a dips where Muck of Last Crew is. But other than that, there's really not that much protection, and it's going to be tough for them. All the while, okay, bro, the final member of Northern Lights also trying to find this space. Jazza of Airstation Mike on that wizard tower is just on the edge of that phase 7 circle. I don't know if he'll be able to still be in it when phase 8 pops up, as Jappy of Last Crew trying to use those smoke grenades. Unity are aware of it. They're pushing on through in the north. Can he find them? Yes, with the shots come through. Whoa! Jappy finds the Nukdom. Jappy gets a kill on the Nukdom. You got caught napping, buddy. YMCA Esports are eliminated, as are, I believe, Unity are also taken out. They did indeed get caught napping. I said it was going to be hard when they made their way downhill.
No, we said how Milky Way, they need to prove that they still deserve one of those top spots, and that seems to be what they're doing. As soon as I saw Nukdom jump out of that vehicle, using that smoke grenade as his kind of cue to do that and take advantage of the situation, I thought, right, he's going to get a couple of really good kills here, and it just didn't happen in that favor. But speaking of good kills, Jazza's going to be knocked straight out of that Wizard Tower. We said that it would be somewhat concerning to see whether he was going to make it into the next phase, and the answer is no.
No. And what also is interesting is that OK Bro, the kill was taken away. It was confirmed by Tempest, but OK Bro has actually taken the spot of Jazza. As if, okay, look, you're down. I'm going to take your spot, but he still has to make his way across to the circle, as it once again goes in the favor of Tempest. They're still a full team. They're the only team with 4 players up. You see it on the left-hand side of your screen. Last crew have 2 players. Okay, Bro finally goes down. We're down to 3 teams. 3D Max have 2. It's 4 against 2 against 2.
And the thing with where Tempest are is they're occupying those buildings, which are really all that's in this circle for cover. So they're in such an advantageous position here, and it's going to make it so hard for people like Mook and Jappy and like 3D Max to push in, because so much control is being held here by Tempest.
And when you look, Wookie Bookie is covering the area that 3D Max holds onto with that bolt action, so they can't head down south. The second 3D Max in any way go up north, they're going to be pinched by both Tempest that are inside the circle and Last Crew that are outside the circle. The second Last Crew tries in any way to go down south, they're going to be out in the open. So really,
is it just as that smoke goes in and you get such a crucial hit, switching over the weapon now. But Jappy going to be the last one there in the kill feed appearing, and Tempest just having such a great game. 3D Max eliminated, number 3 of 16. 2 teams will be remaining, but Tempest just have so much control here. Mug and Jappy are going to have to push in. It doesn't matter. Winner, chicken dinner. Tempest take first place.
Not just first place, but 15 kills.
Yeah.
They were popping off in that game. My boys are back in the mix. Tempest, they're showing us that they're not afraid to get those results when they need it.
Absolutely not.
Wookie Bookie with that bolt action. Just like,
he had a great game.
So good. He was just connecting onto YMCA, connecting onto 3D Max. Really, and then as a whole team, they held on and they protected their compound so effectively, because you could have seen a team look to breach and they could have lost it, but because they were constantly putting pressure on the teams around them, they gave that freedom.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you do have to consider when watching these games, is that when you're looking at a team, you know, part of the decision-making of what they're going to do is deciding, are we going to hold on to this compound, or are we going to take the gamble and start to make a rotation? And Tempest chose to hold onto that compound. Now, obviously, it could have worked out not in their favor. The circles could have gone elsewhere. They could have been forced to go into somebody else. But the point is, they chose to keep a part of the map that has a lot of cover, that has those utilities, and it worked out for them. And it meant that by the time others had to come to them, because they didn't go looking for fights, so they were able to last as 4 people until the entire end. When the other teams were forced towards them, they were in such an advantageous position that they were able to exploit that and just bring down the end, or rather the remains of the players that were left from other teams, and they just had such a fantastic finish.
And we did see a lot of action down the south side of these circles where we didn't really get much of a chance, and it kind of did favor the teams that got the better of it. PG-18 we saw took down Tornado Energy. They took down, I think it was YMCA as well, and then ELGIGANTEN pushed on through and took them out, as far as I can remember. And for the side of PG-18, it was still kind of a solid result, and it was strong for them to deal with. No, sorry, it was Quick Math and YMCA that they got the better of, but it was still a good result for them from a points point of view. And even though the likes of 3D Max, they finished in third and Last Crew finished in second, they didn't get a whole amount of kills. So it's going to be very top heavy, where you see Tempest having that strong first place point result, but there's still going to be then a big gap between them and second place.
Yeah, and that's going to be great for them when, thinking about them wanting to push themselves up in the standings and things like that. If you can get one of those really great games where you can have such a top-heavy win, where you get a lot of kills as well as those 10 points from winning the game, then that's a great position to be in. Everybody's kind of vying to get away from the bottom, and we we spoke about it at the beginning, Cormac, that we having certain teams that are improving so quickly, and Tempest have just joined those ranks.
Definitely, Uni really didn't have a bad start to today's games, like we talked about yesterday. Pulled in fantastic rules. I do think they got caught a little bit napping, looking a little bit too north, and not being aware of down south, and DP from Milky Way really caught him out in the end, as did Last Crew. So really, like that, I gotta say that kind of shouldn't have happened from Unity. They should have realized that keeping an eye on the kill feed, keeping an eye on the players that were left from these teams. And that was a shot from Wookie Bookie, but it's still a strong game, and those circle shifts were definitely tough, especially around Pachinki, because like I talked about, you had that kind of flat field outside of Pachinki down south. No team wanted to go near you, so it's dead area. Therefore, it's basically like water to these teams. You just can't go near it. Yeah.
No, absolutely, I agree. And I think it's really nice as well, you call out Wookie Bookie. He's a guy who's got a lot of experience. He's been on some pretty big teams, Dignitas being one of them. He was on TSM. And so when you have someone like that who has that experience and can kind of provide that, then that's a really, really great asset to have on the team. And it's working out for them. There we go, 25 points that they get from that game, when Last Crew, they're going to be the next one down with 10. So if you say, there's the top heavy. I mean, that's all their kills.
Exactly.
They could have got no kills and still would have drawn.
I know. Or they could have gotten no points and they still would have, strong result. Now, 3 teams with 8 points is definitely not a bad thing for the likes of 3D Max and Last Crew. Again, they're a team that are just holding on to 12th spot. They were at least. So a consistent result, those points really will make a difference. But Wookie Bookie, 738 damage, 7 kills. I told you he was popping off.
Yeah, I mean, you're just sitting so comfortably at the top there. And I mean, even then when you look at the kills, Hanny's the next one down on the same team. So they're kind of monopolizing the top of this leaderboard right now. It'll be interesting to see by the end of the day, after all 4 maps have been done, or all 4 matches, I should say, how that's going to be, if they're going to continue on this domination, or if, as we get into Miramar and Sandhawk, they just have a very different game. Because you do see that quite often. It's not common that you see one team just get all of the matches so well. So
and I've seen in the group stages, Tempest have pulled in strong results on Miramar, but at least when it comes down to the finals, they've only scored 27 points compared to 41 as of today's games in Erangel. So there is that kind of difference there, where if they can get that kind of strong result in the next couple of games, it doesn't have to be a chicken dinner. Once it's over 10 points a game, that'd be pretty good. But either way, we're going to see it coming up. We are going to go for a bit of a short break, so do whatever you need to do. We'll do whatever we need to do. We're going to have 2 fantastic Miramar games coming up. See you in a couple of minutes.